Welcome back to the Real Life Moms podcast. This is a place where you can take a break from all your to-dos and take time to focus on yourself. I'm Lisa Foster, your host, and I love helping moms prioritize themselves. And today we are discussing resilience, habit building, and personal development. And here to help guide us is Chelsea Husum. She is an author, speaker, and owner of a successful construction company here in Denver, Colorado. Welcome, Chelsea, to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here.
So now, Chelsea, I kind of stalked you a little bit because I do that sometimes. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's local, so I have to, right? You have a business.
Yes.
But when I look through your stuff, I see the word in my head like strength. There's so much strength behind you. Yeah. You are somebody who's in a very male-dominated field. You're the owner of a construction company, not just like in it, but the owner of it. So that's a lot. And I know you've had some past adversity and trauma in your life. So my huge question to you is, how did you find that strength to just overcome, and not only overcome, but really thrive in your life and field?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of just in life, I would say I haven't always been very good at it, honestly. You know, a lot of this, some of my major trauma or different things I've gone through have been many years ago, right? And so recently I've done a lot of kind of figure out who I am, done the inner work. And just this last year, honestly, deciding to write a book, there were some stories and things that I had gone through that I was like, literally no one knows. And this happened 20 years ago. And I kind of need to tell people now because I wrote a book about it. And like, I need to tell my family, you know? And so it was like learning to now as a 41-year-old woman, like, I don't need to carry those things from the past anymore. I can heal and move on. I can actually voice it to the world and still live through it, and I'm going to be okay. Right. So it's definitely didn't happen overnight, but I feel with like that situation specifically, and then others that I've gone through since, you know, and then deciding to write this book is like, I do feel that now I do have a story to share, because a lot of times as women and moms, we suffer in silence, or we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we're dealing with all this stuff, right? And it's hard. And we look across, you know, the street or at like school drop off, and we're like, oh, well, they seem so perfect. And it makes us feel bad. And like, why are we doing that? Let's just be real and be like, I'm a hot mess most of the time. And hey, do you want to be a hot mess with me? Like, we can have fun together, right? It's like, that's where I'm finding strength, is just telling my story, because then you actually find your real tribe, your real connection. So that's kind of where I feel called to do that. And in work, I think it's kind of just filtered through, but I think just very, I don't know, I just stepped into construction. I'm like, this is me. I don't ever walk into a room thinking like nervous about it, or like, oh, they're going to look bad or down on me because I'm a woman. I'm like, this is me. What you see is what you get. People know me, they respect me. And I don't know. I at this point in life, like, I know who I am. I'm confident. I know what I have to offer and what value I bring. And that's just kind of flowed through how I step into the room and how I run my company.
I love so much that you're saying, actually, because I do believe that when you do your own work and you feel comfortable in your own skin, which I think is hard. So whatever your past is, right?
Yeah.
It's a part of you, it's made you. But when you're comfortable and then you can put it out to the world
Yeah.
and just show up who you are, I feel like that's like the goal, really. So
Yeah.
you writing this book, I'm sure it was very therapeutic for you. However, having the confidence to share it with the world, I feel like that also shows how much you've come along and that you're ready. You've done the work.
Yeah, I mean, that is the goal of life. I think of life, of just living in your authentic, true self and loving yourself, and not being constantly worried about what everyone thinks of you, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was scary. It's like something you can't take back. Like these are a lot of things
Yeah.
that a lot of people are like, even my best friend who I grew up in South Dakota and we've known each other a very long time. She was like texting me. She's like, I stayed up till 1 a.m. last night reading. Oh my gosh, I can't stop. And she's like, I know you really well, but now I feel like I'm learning all these new things about you
Yeah.
because she's like, these are all stories I never had a clue about. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it was like all these things rolling around in my head that it's like maybe, just maybe by putting this out there, you might help somebody and I'd have
Mhm.
people text me like, oh my gosh, I don't feel alone. Like you said what I was thinking. I feel all these things and I feel all this pressure and whatever. And you said what I needed to hear. And I was like, honestly, that's like the best compliment that I just want it to something out there that I put out there to resonate with somebody and help them feel connected and seen and not alone.
Yeah, I love that. And I do want to add, like, your authentic self is not perfect. I think
Absolutely.
people
It
think of it
shouldn't
as
be. It
like this
shouldn't
like
be.
perfect thing, and it's not. Yeah. I love
Like
that.
you love yourself, the edges and all, and you're like, but like this is me, right? Yeah, I
Mhm.
totally agree.
Yeah. All right. So it's going with the stalking, since I'm on that part of it. On your website, and I think this might be a quote from your book, so you
Okay.
can tell me. And your
Okay.
book, we should say, is called Real Vibes Only, right?
Yep.
Okay. And so on your website, it said, life will always throw you curveballs our way, but isn't the point of living to actually be present and live it? Is that from your
That
book?
is a quote from my book. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I love that because I know you've had lots of curveballs, as many
hmm
of us have,
Yes.
right?
Yes. We all have.
So what does that quote really mean to you? And how did you
hmm
kind of get through those little curves?
Yeah. I mean, it's learning and growing and knowing, like for me, when we all go through hard times, that's the one guarantee of life, right? But
Hmm.
it's understanding when you're in it that it feels like it's going to break you at that time, but understanding it won't, but also realizing that you have to do some work to dig out of that. Like, we all go through really hard things and we can be in it and feel it. It's not to say that we can't feel it and like acknowledge our feelings. We should be doing that. But instead of sitting on the floor, like eating cookies and drinking wine every night, like we can do that maybe 2 nights and then we got to move past that and like dig out. And for me, it was like, okay, I am in it right now. I'm struggling majorly, right? And I had to look at my habits of what was I doing in life to completely drain my energy, make me feel like crap, make me cranky, just like not helping me at all. And then what were things at that time that give me more energy and make me feel good and like physically and mentally, right? So it was like, get rid of this because that's not helping you. And then you need to actually focus on what you're doing and how you're filling your time and maybe saying no to those meetings and you say, oh, I have a previous commitment, and that is laying on the couch and just resting, that's fine. And that's okay because you do need to do that sometimes when you're really struggling. Or finding people saying, I am struggling, being honest and not just pretending that you're okay,
Mm.
right? Because our friends and family do truly care about us. And then also, really, when I was going through a lawsuit last year and for 2.5 years before that, like horrific, worst thing I've ever been through, and I was being sued for millions of dollars. My kids were like, Mommy, when are we losing our home?
Mhm.
Mommy, here's $12. You need it more than I do. Like I was waking up covered in hives. I was so heavy and so depressed. And finally I woke up one morning. I'm like, I am not okay. Like I am not okay at all. And so I reached out to a therapist because and that's not okay, or that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, right? Saying I need help. But sometimes, as much as like when we're going through hard times, like our friends and family are there to help us, many times it's helpful to have somebody that's completely outside of knowing you and your circle because you sometimes just need to really say that stuff that you don't want to say to anybody else and you're not going to say it to your mom or your best friend because you might hurt their feelings, right? So that's a valid thing to go after if you really need to just get stuff off your chest and unleash to move forward to heal, right?
Totally, totally. I
Mhm.
mean, therapy is so important.
It is.
Having that person who is just honestly on your side. Like
Mhm.
they're there for you,
Yeah,
but they're not going to judge you.
exactly.
And yeah,
Mhm,
they're there
mhm,
just to help you. And that is, yeah, so important. So I'll second that
mhm,
motion for sure. So I heard you say habits. Okay.
mhm,
Habits. I know you're very into helping others kind of build habits that
mhm.
are leading to success, whether it's getting us
Yep.
out of this hole if we're struggling
Mhm.
or just overcoming something else
Yeah.
or thriving. So,
Mhm.
can you share some habits that you feel have been really beneficial in just your journey?
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm 41. I act like a 95-year-old grandma. I am extremely boring and I love it. Like I love it. So I go to bed at like by 9, I'm passed out
Me
and
too.
I
I
love it.
love it.
Yeah, so sleep, like I love sleep. And I don't know, I wish I could run on 6 hours of sleep a night. I can't. I would just be horrific to be around. But so, I'm in bed early. Right now, I somehow have 2 broken feet. So there's that. But I used to get, before I had 2 broken feet, I would get up at 5:30 and go to the gym first thing in the morning. Because for me, in construction, my phone starts ringing at 6 or 7, usually 7. But that was the only time my family, my husband and kids are still sleeping. I go do it because if you're like me, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll work out at lunch or, at 2 or 3. And then I work through lunch and I forget. I'm exhausted. I make a million excuses. Something comes up with work. Like it's just not going to happen. And I know that about myself. Like back in the day, I could do that. Now, no, just is not going to happen. So for me, I have to do it first thing in the morning. Then obviously we know that flows through the rest of your day. It makes you feel great, starts everything. You have more energy, you have a better attitude, right? And I really like meditation. That I started that many years ago. And I always do guided meditations and I always do like 10 to 15 minutes, not a long time, but massive changes truly in my mood. That reading, journaling, one big thing, getting outside for me. I work from home. So I'm in my office, like working away. And sometimes I just get so wound up. I have to be like, stop, go get your chocolate lab, go outside and take a walk and just breathe. Like, look at the sky and breathe. And remember, you're not the center of the universe and like chill out a little bit. Right. But it's a game changer is like sitting outside or breathing the fresh air, walking. It's such little things, but those make me feel good. And I love having red wine. Red wine does not love me. I love margaritas. And but lately I would have like a glass or two and I would have the worst headache the next day until I go to bed. I'm like, what is happening? Like back in the day, I could drink all kinds of like cheap red wine and I was fine.
Mhm.
And now I'm drinking like decent red, not like great, but decent red wine and I'm like dying the next day. And I was just like, I don't have time for this. I feel so bad. I'm cranky. Then I skip the gym. Then I eat a double
Mhm.
cheeseburger because I feel bad. Then I like snap at my kids. And I'm like, this is horrible. It's derailing all my other habits. And it's like literally wasting my life because I feel so bad. I'm like, I don't know if I somehow have become kind of allergic to it. I've talked to some people that as we get older, like we just don't take it as well. So
Yeah,
for
that
me,
happened
I've
to me
really
as
tried
well.
to pull it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about what's happened to you. Cause I've really tried to pull that back lately because I don't have time and don't want to feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. Like, I'm not a big drinker, but I
Yeah.
do like an occasional glass of wine.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there was a time period
Mm-hmm.
around your age, because I'm
Yeah.
52,
Okay.
where
It's,
exactly it happened to me, where all of a sudden it was, I don't know if I was allergic maybe to the sulfites or something, but
yeah.
exactly. Worst headache ever. So I stopped
Mm-hmm.
drinking totally. I have brought it back and I don't get as many headaches at
Okay.
all. Like it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can come
Yeah.
back around. But yes.
Okay.
But
That's
I
so,
hear what you're
yeah.
saying about that it doesn't make you feel good. And
Mm-hmm.
so then it's a ripple effect. And so what
It
I'm really
really
hearing
is.
as you develop these habits, it's not just about implementing better habits, right? Like getting up and
Mm-hmm.
doing that. It's
Mm-hmm.
also about maybe really looking at the habits that are deterring you from
Yes.
moving forward.
Yeah. Like what are you doing in your life that deep down is holding you back in
Mhm.
some or maybe all areas, right? Yeah, you really have to look at both sides. And because let's say, okay, you could be drinking 2 bottles of wine a night and eating a double cheeseburger, but you're going to the gym every day. Well, that's not going to work, right? I mean, it has to come from both sides. You
Yeah.
can't just do that, all of this and hope for the best. You know what I mean? So yeah, you really do have to take a holistic approach. And I just judge it by, what makes you feel really good and energized, right? We all know that if you really sit and think about it. And I will say, as moms, like society tells us, oh, we're selfish if we take care of ourselves. That is a bunch of crap. It's ridiculous. Not okay. I do things for me and I put myself first because then I'm better for everyone else. I put my husband first and our marriage first. And yes, of course, we're doing a million things for our kids and they're loved and taken care of, but that's really important to us. And then they see that and they see how we act and what we do, right? And hopefully that will help them down the road. But one of my favorite things, like I go to a lot of conferences now, so I kind of get this, but before I used to take one day and just go book a hotel room in Denver by myself. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And I get that you don't have to book the Ritz. You can book a normal hotel, right? But that is a game changer to like lay in your robe, read, order room service, just sit in the silence and not even like talk to anybody. Doing things like that, if hopefully you have family or a partner or a friend that can help you, with the kids or something, kind of, take care and while you can go and not worry. But that's a game changer.
Totally. And it's funny because I'm laughing in my head because listen, if we feel that guilty about going away
Yeah.
on our own, then send your family to go away and have the
Yeah.
house to yourself
Fine.
because
That
that
is
works
fine.
too.
So
Right.
you
And
guys
now
go
they're
have a
having fun.
fun night. Exactly. Very
Go
true.
have a fun night. And I also want to say, yes, I hear this over and over again on the podcast. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
self-care is not selfish, like
No.
all the time. But I also am like listening to you, it's coming to me too. It's like, it's our mindset about it. It's yes,
It is.
society has this thing, but I'm allowing that to
Yes.
be in my head. I
Mm-hmm.
am making it said in my head that it's selfish, but like
True. That
I can
it's
just
true. And it's
change
not
that.
true.
It's
Yeah.
not true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I just change my mindset around it, well, then it doesn't matter what's happening around me. If I know in my heart
Mm-hmm.
and in my mind that this is
Yeah.
important and it's part of my health care,
Yeah.
so we have control over
That's
that as
true.
well.
That's so true. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, let's go back to habits for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading a blog post. I was kind of on
Okay.
these little threads, if you will. You get caught up in these
Mm-hmm.
threads, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the thread, it was so interesting because it really hit me. And someone had written in, well, if we do the meditation, the walking, the
Mm-hmm.
breathing and all these things, but say we still feel crappy,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're doing all the things. Let's talk about what do we do if we're already doing all the things, but we don't
Yeah.
feel good. And
Yeah.
it made me think because I say those things too. I'm like, oh my God, I feel better if I walk. I feel
Mm-hmm.
better
Mm-hmm.
this and that. But it really
Yeah.
hit me. I thought that was an amazing question. So let me just
That
throw it out
is.
there.
I mean, I feel like and those things I've tried for quite a few years, right? So I know those work for me, but it's first doing the work. Maybe you need to get to know yourself a little bit
Yeah.
better. And maybe you need to love yourself a little bit better. And what remember back to a time, what lights you up? Like when was the last time that you remember being like, yes, oh my
Mm,
gosh, my soul is on fire. I feel so good, right? And if it's for a lot of us, sometimes we go through phases where we're like, I don't remember. It's been a while, right? I mean, I get it. We get caught in this, the busyness of life, the craziness of life, of mom life, right? But we need to do that. So if it's not meditation or journaling, whatever, some people are like, that's woo woo craziness. What do some work and thinking what lights my soul up, what makes
mhm,
me feel happy and alive and just like me, not mom, but me, right?
mhm.
We have to still be our own strong, passionate person and know and love ourselves first. So if it has gotten kind of lost, really, you have to do the work and figure it out. And then if it's like doing yoga or if it's hiking or dancing, like I met a woman, I would do monthly wine nights, and I met a woman and she said, it was kind of sad because she was like, I hate my job, but I'm too old to go do anything else. And I'm like, honey, no, I've completely changed what I've done numerous times in life. Right. So we talked about that. I'm like, no, you really can. Don't put that in your head that you're too old or it's too late in life. But one cool thing she did say, she goes, I told my husband that I think she said she was going to therapy or something, and she was going to line dancing classes.
Mhm.
And she's like, I just love it. I love it so much. And I don't even want to tell him because this is for me. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that makes me so happy. And I could see her light up, right? So it was where she was struggling in other areas of life, she was trying to put herself out there and
Mhm.
find like-minded people. There for meetup.com or all these different events, probably on Facebook, you could have the weirdest interest on the planet and you're going to find your people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just got to
Mhm.
do a little work for it.
It is work. And
Yeah.
being a parent, you kind of lose like, oh, this is who I was, right? And I was
Yes.
kind of cool back then, right?
We were
And then
all
you become a
cool
parent,
back
we were
then.
all cool. It doesn't matter what you were
Not
doing, you were
anymore.
cool. Not anymore. Then you become a parent, you're uncool. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, I feel like sometimes we keep searching back to who that person was. And
Yes.
what I've realized is I'm very different.
Oh,
Yes,
me
I have some
too.
similarities, and yes, I have some likes that I did, but my whole being has changed as an
Yes.
adult. And it's exciting because I feel like I keep reinventing, relearning
Hmm.
new things, trying new things, switching careers, doing all this great stuff that honestly, I feel keeps me much younger.
Yeah.
So, in finding that joy, we don't have to look backwards. We can look
No.
forward to something different, I think, too. And that could
Yes.
really help too. And might be part of the problem when we're doing all the same things over and over again. Listen, those things didn't work the first time. I don't know why we
Right.
keep thinking they're going to work now.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great point because when I think of myself back to my 20s, I was successful doing things, but I was a mess. Like I was depressed. I was drinking a ton. I was wild and crazy. Now I'm like, oh no, that sounds horrible. Like I'm a homebody. I love, you know what I mean?
You're
It's
in bed by 9 now.
yes. And I love it, and all my friends kind of joke about it. And I'm like, yep, bye, gotta go. But to go back to who she was, she didn't even know who she was.
Mhm.
Now, through all of the things of life, yeah, it's completely different. I totally agree on that.
Yeah. Now, as a
Mm-hmm.
mom and as a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's lots of demands, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can feel them. And you're an author and a speaker. You do a lot. So, how do you handle all those demands? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know just even one of those is really challenging.
Yeah.
So, how does that work?
Yeah, I think it hasn't always been, it's never perfect, but I feel like I've kind of come into a good flow of life and really figured out how I do things and how I thrive. So even now, so I started my company in March of 2020 randomly, and I actually worked another full-time job for until April of 22 while I was building my company. So two full-time jobs, literally. Family home at COVID. I'm like crying in the office, like kids are running around like psycho craziness, right? So that was a whole different time. But honestly, I could say like today, I work really hard when I do, but I don't sit in my office for 8 hours a day. I'll
Mhm.
work really hard for 2 hours, then I'll go walk my dog, or I'll go get my nails done, or I'll go to lunch or whatever. And then I work in like weird little shifts. So for example, last year I was turning 40 and I'm like, I want to turn 40 in Italy. I've never been there. My husband had never been to Europe. And I'm like, could I pull this off and like go to Europe for 10 days? So we're a small company. I literally run the entire company. And so I do numerous people's jobs technically. And then I have people out in the field and on the construction sites. So I went to Italy, the only person running this company, dealing with clients, dealing with scheduling, dealing with my employees at all, but I made it work. We
Mm.
went out, I ate so much pasta and pizza, like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. And I'd come home with the time difference and I'd work before I'd go to bed then. Somehow I did it. I made it work. And I'll go skiing with my kids, while everyone else is working, and then I go to the hotel, throw them in the pool and I catch up. So I might work kind of weird hours, but the other day we went to a movie in the middle of the day, but
Mm.
I kind of I believe like success to me is fitting my life into what I'm doing and the
Mm.
business. Like I want to enjoy my life now, not in 10 years when I want to sell the business or whatever, you know, and I've
Yes.
lost my health and my family hates me and I'm just like miserable. It for me, it's really important to be a little different in how I do things, but enjoy the life now.
Mhm. I love that so much because I always hear that, like, when something's going
Yeah.
to happen, then I can. So when you sell your
Mm-hmm.
business, then I'll be able to
Then
do
I'll
that.
be do. Yeah,
But
no,
yeah, and you know what?
no,
That never comes. I'm just
it
saying
won't.
that one
You'll
thing, I
always
hear
come
that
up
all the
with
time.
something else.
That never
Yes.
comes. So I love that
Mm-hmm.
you do it now. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
such a good takeaway. I also think that I'm going to plug owning your own business or being your own boss
Mm-hmm.
allows for that flexibility.
Yes, totally. Because I know what I need to do. If it's
Hmm.
pressing, I handle it. And if it's not, I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it tomorrow, whatever. You know what I mean? And this is how it's grown though, stepping into the fourth year of the business. Back when I started it, probably the first two and a half years, I would get kind of anxious, like, oh, I have to do all this right away. Or it's so, oh, all these people are calling and emailing me. Now I will answer if I'm available, but if it's not a good time, I send them to voicemail or I will get back to them when I can because I'm in meetings or I'm doing different things, right? So I think now I feel just really calm about it and I don't get anxious about a work day because it's like I've removed the anxiety that I was placing on that to constantly just immediately respond back within like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Yes, I'll get back to you in an hour or two. It's going to be fine. But I've seen that shift in my head lately where I just am like, oh, it's Monday, cool, which it never used to be. But
Hmm.
it is again how you approach it, how you view it, and you really can shift it.
I think if you create an environment, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
your work environment or home environment that
Mm-hmm.
you enjoy, you're going to want to be there. So when
Yes.
Monday comes, you're not like, oh God, I got to go to work
Yeah.
or work's done and I got to go home. Like create the environment
Mm-hmm.
that you fit into
Yeah.
and want to be in because I think that that is living, that's success.
Yep.
Well, I know you have this amazing book and you have a lot to offer. So tell us a little bit about what you offer and where
Mm-hmm.
people can find you.
Yeah, I would say the best place to find me and connect with me is on my website. That's just chelseahusum.com. My social links and just a bunch of information about the book and all kind about me are on there. And I do offer a little freebie. So I call it the Your Unapologetic Life Workbook. It's right there when you go to the website. You can get it for free and download it right away. But it's like when I feel, and we all get in this, like when I feel like I'm getting in a little funk, I'm like, okay, like, I don't know why, but I'm feeling a little weird. I went through and thought of all the things that a lot of it's habits like we talked about today, but different things that in my life that I look at to kind of get back on track. And I made it really fun and kind of sassy. So I think I talked about sleep and wanting to smother my husband with a pillow when he was snoring in there. But yeah, that's free. So go check that out and let me know if you enjoy it.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll have that in the show notes so people can grab it and hopefully not smother their
Yes.
husband. Okay. So if there's one thing that you really want the listeners to just walk away from this podcast and really start implementing today, what would it be?
I would just say, look at your mindset. Who are you? And how can you love your life and love yourself and just be you and be unapologetic and really stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to please everybody else. Who like authentically step into who you really are. And however that looks, it looks so different for us all. But truly, I believe that's the goal of life. And I would wish and hope that everyone can feel fulfilled and happy while they're living their life. And like you said, not someday I will, someday when the kids get this old or when they quit this sport or whatever. You're never guaranteed someday. You're never even guaranteed tomorrow. So how can you just really step into truly who you are and live your life now?
Yes, that is the takeaway. Live your life now. I love that. Well, thank you so much for just sharing your insights. And I can't wait to check out your book and your
Thank
freebie.
you.
And it's been so fun having you.
This was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. Chelsea was such a pleasure to speak with. And if you want to learn more about Chelsea and grab her freebie and check out her website and her social links, and of course, her books, Real Vibes Only, Click on the links in the show notes. They are all there for you. And until next week, keep prioritizing yourself. Find what you enjoy because self-care is important and you matter.